Today I'm going to tell you about different uses of charcoal that you might not know about, or maybe you do know some of them, but others will surprise you. It's the same charcoal used for barbecues, this one right here, but you'll see all the properties and uses it has. The last tip is going to surprise you, so don't leave until the end. This is Caesar Space, and I warmly welcome you to my channel. We all know the charcoal that's sold in stores for barbecuing. It's this one, and before we get into its uses, I want to tell you how it's made. This is wood charcoal, right? Since ancient times and even now, it's made by stacking a pile of wood that's covered with dirt or clay, leaving only a few holes for the smoke to escape, and it's lit from underneath. This way, the wood burns with little oxygen, meaning the wood burns but isn't allowed to burst into flames. It's a process called pyrolysis. Some time ago I showed you a simple pyrolytic stove where I explained the phenomenon, even with an experiment. I'll leave it up here in the eye in case you're interested. When the wood pile finishes burning and cools down, what's left is charcoal. Charcoal has had many uses, besides being used to make delicious barbecues. Let's take a look at some of them. Charcoal as a deodorizer. Yes, if your sneakers smell, or if you have that smell left in your food containers or in the fridge, when you open it and it gives off that stench, place it inside your shoes, food containers, or in the fridge. A piece of charcoal eliminates odors. It's like a sponge for absorbing odors. Always. If you're using it for food containers or sneakers, wrap it with a paper towel so it doesn't get dirty, right? And in the fridge, you can put it on a tray or a plate like you see here. Activated charcoal. Since this process is a bit long, I'd rather do it in a future video if you're interested. You have to do it with a chemical product called calcium chloride. It's a cheap product, it's not hard to find or anything like that, and the process isn't difficult either. But this video would get too long, and today I just wanted to tell you about the advantages that activated charcoal has over regular charcoal, right? And why is it better to use it instead of just using the charcoal we buy in a bag? During the activation process, charcoal develops a lot of micropores. It's like all the pores of the wood get cleaned out and it ends up like a sponge, like I told you before, right? I told you it was like a sponge that absorbed odors. And that's exactly what happens. By having so many pores, the surface area increases a lot. And for example, in 1 gram, there can be up to 1,000 meters, even more than 1,000 square meters of surface area. The surface area becomes enormous when the charcoal is activated. So, adsorption with deadsorption is that property that allows chemical substances, gases, heavy metals, pesticides, toxins, and other things to stick to the surface. In most of the uses we'll see today, it's better to use activated charcoal than regular wood charcoal. Now let's move on to making a water filter. As I mentioned before, for this filter, you have to use activated charcoal. You can also buy it. It's inexpensive. Activated charcoal is very inexpensive. This filter will purify the water, but it won't make it drinkable. In the process, we can remove impurities, salts, odors, and parasite spores. The salts it will remove are heavy salts, not all salts. If you try to purify seawater, for example, the filter won't remove all the salts. It will only remove some of them. That's why it's recommended to use these filters with rainwater. Maybe water that's dirty, but rainwater, right? Once we've filtered it, we need to boil it to make it drinkable. Well, to build it, you put sand in a bucket or container and wash it with plenty of water until the water comes out clean. You wash it several times and you'll see that the water comes out clearer each time. Well, when we see that there's no more dirt or anything, and the water comes out clean after washing, then the sand is ready. In a soda bottle with the bottom cut off, we're going to put some paper towels or a bit of cotton to cover it well, the spout opening. And on top of this, we're going to add a layer of activated charcoal about 3 centimeters high. After this, we put a layer of washed sand about 5 to 8 centimeters thick. Then another layer of charcoal and another layer of sand, and there we have our filter ready. At first, don't get discouraged if you see that when it starts filtering, the water comes out cloudy. What happens is that you have to wash the filter first. I mean, you have to run at least 3 or 4 liters of water through it, and you'll see that as the clean water goes through, it becomes clearer and clearer. Once the water comes out perfectly clean, then the filter is ready to be used. Now watch as I add this water that's really dirty, full of dirt and other things, and see how it comes out crystal clear, right? Always remember that to make it drinkable, if it's rainwater, you have to boil it or add chlorine.
Odor.
Let's move on to another use. The use of charcoal for drawing and writing. This has also been used since the world began, right? And it's very useful for leaving messages on rocks or surfaces. This doesn't harm nature because it washes away with the rain. And charcoal drawing as an art form is also very popular. Take a look at this work, for example. How beautiful it looks, right? This is made with charcoal. Now let's move on to the use of charcoal in cosmetology. Activated charcoal is used a lot in cosmetics mainly because it can absorb oils and impurities, and also because of its abrasive nature. You can make a mask, which I'm going to show you how to do right now, using activated charcoal mixed with hot water and gelatin. You can use unflavored gelatin or the kind you have for desserts. I'm going to use one I have, which is peach flavored. What you do is put a teaspoon of gelatin on top of the charcoal and make a kind of soup. You do it with hot water, adding liquid little by little. That soup shouldn't be too thick or too watery. And you apply it once it's cold. For 15 or 20 minutes, this mixture is for deep cleansing. But it's not healing or anti-inflammatory. It's only for cleansing. It's abrasive, as I told you before. And it removes blackheads, oiliness, and all that. Well, don't even dream that you're going to see me with the mask on. Well, here I put a photo of a girl who has the mask on. The use of charcoal as an abrasive is another important capability of charcoal. For cleaning utensils, kitchenware, for removing rust and all that. Remember that it's not toxic, so it can be used perfectly in the kitchen. It can polish metals. Here you can see that I have a lid from a disc here, from a cooking disc. And notice that we can remove it perfectly. The rust, right? And all the impurities it has on the surface. How is it done? Well, you prepare a paste using regular charcoal. It doesn't have to be activated charcoal in this case. And you mix it with a bit of oil or water. I prefer to add oil because it acts as a lubricant and it spreads much more easily and the surface is much easier to clean. This can clean pots and other utensils. You can also use a piece of charcoal by itself. and rub it directly to remove rust and dirt. Personally, I like to make the paste with a little bit of oil because since it's a lubricant, it spreads much more easily, and it's easier to remove all the rust and all that stuff. All right, let's move on to the charcoal as an air filter. I did this recently in a video showing how to make air purifying masks using activated charcoal. I'm not going to repeat all of this because I already explained it in detail in this video right here in the eye, so you can watch it, but it's very, very effective. And you can make air filters, for example, to work with waste and all those things that usually have vapors that are harmful, right, for your lungs. So you can use these types of filters and they work perfectly. They purify really, really well. Another use is as a fire starter. In this case, we're not going to use charcoal. We're going to char cloth, cotton cloth. We're going to put a little roll inside a can, just like you see now, of cloth. Well, I'm also going to put in some pieces of a coconut shell I had around here. So you can see how the pyrolysis actually turns out, right? Because that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to burn the cloth and these pieces of coconut shell using pyrolysis. You can do it with any can, closed. It has to be closed with just a few holes for the smoke to come out. And you put it on the fire. I did it with this can of peas. It's good that I hadn't finished cutting the lid where we took out the contents. So it worked out perfectly for me because then I closed it and it was just right for this job. You know, you put it over the fire and smoke starts coming out. You'll notice smoke coming out of the holes from the side of the lid, but it will always keep burning with a lack of oxygen. That is, it will start doing what's called pyrolysis. Once it cools down, those pieces of fabric that are charred, you can light them very easily with a flint or a lighter that has no gas. Look here, I'm using the base of an aerosol can as a solar light concentrator, and see how easily it lights up, right? These fire starters are awesome when you have no way to make a fire. Practically with a magnifying glass or with your own glasses, you can light a campfire without any problems. Charcoal to improve the soil and plants, that's another super important use. Put charcoal at the bottom of the pots or mix it with the soil. This greatly improves the porosity of the soil and helps retain a lot of moisture. Remember that the charcoal shouldn't have any residue. That's if you make your own charcoal, meaning you burn your own wood. Remember not to use wood that has been painted, okay? It's also not a good idea to use the charcoal that sometimes remains under the grill because, well, this probably has grease and other stuff, things that fell from above, right? Charcoal can also be used to preserve seeds and grains, right? You put it in because it absorbs a lot of moisture. It will preserve them very well. And now we come to the last tip, charcoal for medicinal use. The use of charcoal tablets for gastrointestinal disorders is very well known. Diarrhea, gas, and all that, both in people and in pets. Well, here I'm going to show you how to make homemade charcoal tablets. The best thing is to use activated charcoal, because activated charcoal has many more properties. We grind it in a mortar until it becomes as fine as talcum powder. And then we can sift it if we have a sieve. And we add an egg white to that charcoal. And we start making a paste. It has to be a really thick paste. We're going to roll it out and then, well, I'm going to cut it. To cut the tablets, I used a syringe. I cut off the tip and as you can see, it basically turned into a punch tool. With it, I was able to cut the charcoal tablets. Once we cut those charcoal tablets, we can put them out in the sun so they dry. Or we can put them in the oven for about 10 or 15 minutes and they become pretty hard. You can take 1 or 2 of these tablets per day in case of gastrointestinal disorders. The most practical thing is to always give them to pets, right? People usually go to the pharmacy and buy the tablets, but humans can also take them. Remember that all of this is completely natural. There's nothing strange here. It's incredible how many properties charcoal has, right? And I still have a few left. The thing is, the video got too long. The use of charcoal is ancient. I hope you liked the video, learned some new tips, and found it useful. At the campsite, camping, at home, give it a like. Share it on your social networks. It helps me a lot. Subscribe by clicking the subscription button and hit the bell to get notifications when I upload new content. And if you're a big fan, you can support the channel by becoming a member. To do that, you have to click the join button. And in that case, I'll add you to a WhatsApp group where the premium members are. Thank you so much for watching the video. See you next time, God willing.